Because sometimes the scariest monsters are human. You've probably watched horror movies and thought, there's no way that could be real. But what if I told you that behind some of Hollywood's most terrifying villains, there were actual people, flesh and blood, whose real-life crimes were far more disturbing than fiction? Let's dive into the real monsters behind the masks, the terrifying true stories that gave birth to some of horror's most legendary characters. 1. Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. Inspired. Psycho, 1960. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. In the quiet, rural town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, Ed Gein lived alone and secretly surrounded himself with horror. When police investigated his farmhouse in 1957, after a local woman went missing, they stumbled into a waking nightmare. Inside his house were bowls made of human skulls, lampshades made from human skin, and a horrifying woman's suit sewn from the corpses of exhumed bodies. Gein claimed he wanted to become his dead mother, a religious fanatic who emotionally abused him his entire life. Norman Bates, Leatherface, and Buffalo Bill were all inspired by Gein's twisted psyche, his obsession with the dead, his grotesque trophies, and his warped desire to become someone else. Interesting fact, Ed Gein was found legally insane and spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital, but his crimes permanently shaped horror cinema. 2. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown. Inspired, Twisty the Clown, American Horror Story. Pennywise's psychological horror. By day, he was a successful contractor. On weekends, he dressed up as Pogo the Clown and entertained kids at birthday parties. But behind that painted smile was a predator. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy murdered 33 teenage boys, burying many of them beneath his suburban home in Illinois. His double life, the trusted neighborhood guy versus the monstrous killer, made him one of the most chilling real-life villains in history. While Pennywise from it is a supernatural monster, Gacy's influence helped shape the cultural fear of clowns, and Twisty, the sadistic clown from American Horror Story, Freak Show, borrows heavily from Gacy's grotesque legacy. Interesting fact, before his execution, Gacy's last words were chilling, "Kiss my ass." He even painted clown portraits in prison, which are now banned from being sold in some states. 3. Vlad the Impaler, the original Dracula. Inspired, Dracula, 1897 novel, 1931 film, and countless remakes. Centuries before Hollywood, there lived a ruler so brutal that his legend gave birth to the vampire myth. Vlad III of Wallachia, also known as Vlad the Impaler, ruled in the 15th century and became infamous for skewering his enemies on long wooden stakes. The forests outside his castle were lined with thousands of impaled victims. It was psychological warfare, and it worked. Most armies didn't dare to challenge him. When Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897, he borrowed Vlad's name and reputation to create the dark and immortal Count Dracula. Interesting fact, though Vlad was a national hero in Romania for defending his land, he was also said to drink the blood of his enemies quite literally. 4. Richard Trenton Chase, the Vampire of Sacramento. Inspired. Aspects of vampire and cannibal characters like Dracula, Hannibal Lecter, and others. In the late 1970s, California faced a horror straight from your darkest dreams. Richard Chase believed his blood was turning to powder. To fix it, he drank the blood of animals, then moved on to humans. He killed 6 people in the span of 1 month, draining their blood, eating body parts, and leaving behind horrific crime scenes that earned him the nickname the Vampire of Sacramento. Unlike the suave Dracula, Chase was disheveled, paranoid, and clearly delusional. But his case fueled the popular idea that vampires could be real, not in the mythical sense, but as humans driven to horrific acts by mental illness. Interesting fact, Chase only entered homes that were unlocked, saying that meant he was welcome. Locked doors, he claimed, were a sign he wasn't invited, eerily similar to vampire lore. 5. H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. Inspired. Various horror killers, including Saw's Jigsaw, American Horror Story, Hotel's James March. During the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, H. Holmes opened a hotel with secret torture chambers. Nicknamed the Murder Castle, it was a maze of soundproof rooms, trapdoors, hidden passages, and gas chambers. Holmes lured visitors in, mostly women, and many were never seen again. He confessed to 27 murders, but historians believe the number may have been over 200. His carefully planned killings, deadly games, and manipulation of space inspired countless horror stories, including Saw, where victims are trapped in elaborate torture rooms, and American Horror Story Hotel, which features a hotel built for murder. Interesting fact: Holmes was charming, intelligent, and even held a degree in medicine, but his genius was twisted. He used it to engineer death. So the next time you're watching a horror movie and thinking, at least it's not real, think again. Because behind the most terrifying villains are often true stories. Stories of obsession, madness, and cruelty that no screenwriter could make up. Which one shocked you the most? The killer clown? The butcher with lampshades made of skin? Let me know in the comments and follow for more true horror that's even scarier than fiction.